Alright, so I played a game recently called Deep Sleep Labyrinth of the Forsaken. And now one from ye olde Flash days, like Creeper World or Don't Escape. So I'm biased and I say I recommend this game anyway. Although I do make this clear, I cheated, giving myself infinite experience. Playing like this took some of the challenge away, but I'm 100% sure there are also annoyances I have skipped as well. Anyway, the game is not flawless, but I have enjoyed it a lot, and the sappy ending was lovely too. What is it about? Well, first two words of the title. I'd rather avoid spoilers, so yeah, the premise is a whole lot of sleeping, while playing as a girl named Amy. Walk through a asymmetric world with occasional horror, puzzles, and stuff. What did I enjoy? First thing that comes to mind is the inventory system, which is weird to bring up. So the thing is that a lot of items picked up have some way to interact with them. For example, at one point there's a weird key which just doesn't seem to fit the lock, yet there are these pins on it. I wonder what's that all about. Also puzzle boxes, strange books, etc, etc. This is a fairly simple idea, but yeah, I cannot remember any game which did it like this. Sometimes you could look at items in some games, but being able to actually interact with them, affect them after inspecting them, that's just different. But yeah, I can't remember any game like this, but I'm sure this kind of system existed before. It's just a creative way to tackle it. Aside from that, I just enjoyed the atmosphere. Script Welder does this really well. I do prefer his Don't Escape stuff, and quite frankly entirely forgot about Deep Sleep, but he never really failed to present an interesting story hidden behind the hideous pixel art. The game is definitely not trying to be pretty, none of his games are. But they are unique and memorable. Again, mostly Don't Escape. This space one is probably my favorite. I've played it, well, I'm not gonna say 2 decades ago, but definitely over a decade and a half ago. And I still remember it fondly. The first time I saw the twist was crazy. Here it's definitely a lot weaker on the twists, but there are actual characters and dialogue, which is actually surprisingly rare for this developer. So the whole game is strange and gloomy, but with a hint of hope. And I suppose a bland answer, but the gameplay was enjoyable as well. I wouldn't praise the combat, it's not exactly Witcher 1 level of terrible, but I don't hate it either. No, what was good was the exploration, the minor puzzles, and the choice and effect situations. These aren't too uncommon, but sometimes they do pop up. Are you sure you want to do that? This kind of thing is always a delight to experience. Although with fighting pickups, that kind of pop-up was a bit annoying, but the point is that even the simple actions made me doubt myself, which added to the atmosphere. Sometimes it also played with the expectations, like when spiders pop up. The player can break open the webs and get loot. Or not. And it's impossible to tell which is actually safe. I suppose it sounds basic, and it is. But in the grand scheme of things, I've enjoyed it, and that's all that matters. And the characters, I guess. I can praise those, but I'm not sure how much I can say without spoilers. The game definitely loses a lot of the appeal if any twists are seen coming, and if I say whom I like and make it obvious whenever betrayal is coming or not, it would ruin things a bit. So have another cop-out point. What did I dislike? Again, combat. It's basic and serviceable, but the problem with it is the slow animation, clunky AI behavior, and unpredictability. Meaning, you can be swamped with combat items sometimes without any enemies to fight, and sometimes you step one time to the right from the start of the zone and there is a huge battle right there. Also, if losing a battle, the entire dream resets, unless you've got an upgrade, which also plays into unpredictability. Best example of this for me was the last boss. I quickly panicked and went to the interactable object, let's call it that. But that just triggered the last fight, so I had to keep chugging coffee mid-fight and lost. Then I rewound and realized that the fight doesn't happen unless I interact with the object, so I prepared as much as I could, beating it without too much of a problem. I suppose it's not as if the game crashes to desktop every time you fail, but it feels less frustrating either way. It's not always clear when things are safe or not. Lighthouse is a good example. When going through that level, I just rushed like crazy, thinking it would be like a temple. But instead, no, I could take my time. I could walk backwards, solve a puzzle, we don't even follow you into a puzzle area, yada yada yada. Also, sometimes the puzzles are a bit confusing. The painting one is a great example. It kinda makes sense if you right-click them, but it's hard to tell which one is the start and which one is the end. Snowy ones also just blend together. And the book stacking one. I truly don't understand how the book stacking one is supposed to be done. I randomly shuffled them, then I said, okay, let's try to think about it. And clicked a few times only for a puzzle to suddenly finish. I wanted to see the actual solution, for God's sake. Oh, and another time I was frustrated was the cave. I just couldn't see where to go. The opening area had a clear opening up, but that was it. I just assumed that little whatever the hell that is that crawls through the ground. I thought you're supposed to do something with it, and only after you do that you would be able to proceed, but instead I actually just couldn't see the path. That was a completely different path, and you can avoid that cave altogether. Anyway, that actually happened before, but I found the path eventually. This was just the worst example of it. Also, I suppose the whole casino stage, I would love to hear the dev commentary on it, because it feels like it should have been much bigger, with multiple stages, maybe mid-bosses, and just more stuff. But something must have been problematic, and instead we got this. I felt like half the stage was hearing characters hype up the 3 sirens. Anyway, the pacing can be problematic is my point. This is actually a bit of a positive too, because it makes it unpredictable. I couldn't exactly tell what is behind the next door, but it can definitely be frustrating. At least, I suppose. In Script Welder's fashion, unlike Don't Escaper's seemingly no failure state, you do restart, but it doesn't seem like in this game you can completely botch the playthrough by doing a few wrong moves or doing them in the wrong order. So yeah, I've enjoyed Deep Sleep, Labyrinth of the Forsaken, and I don't think it's purely motivated by the Flash game nostalgia. There's enough here to praise. Besides, it's mainly just one guy working on this. Music and portraits are someone else, but that's a small part of it, and that is always impressive to me.